Meta just launched a new coding agent that's aggressively priced and comes with enterprise controls. And that's gonna put pressure on every other coding tool out there. Meanwhile, Google's pouring another 25 billion into AI infrastructure, while Anthropic subtly starts testing its next frontier model. We're also seeing big moves in AI regulation, from China's strict rules on AI companions to Fannie Mae mandating AI governance for mortgage lenders. No BS AI briefing brought to you by Proactive AI. Welcome back. I'm your host Vikash Sharma, and this is where builders get straightforward AI news without the fluff. All right, let's dive into what's been happening. We've got a lot of high signal items this week, and honestly, some of these feel like the landscape is shifting pretty quickly. First up, Meta has officially launched Muse Code, their new AI coding agent. This isn't just another chatbot, it's integrated with their existing Muse Spark 1.2 platform, and the pricing is designed to turn heads. $1.25 per million input tokens and $4.25 per million output tokens. Now, there's also a discounted contributor tier where you allow Meta to use your data to improve their models, a pretty common play. But the big differentiator here for the enterprise crowd is that customers can specifically request zero data retention. In plain English, this means Meta is trying to undercut rivals on price while simultaneously addressing major enterprise concerns around data privacy. For builders, the interesting part is not just the potential cost savings, but the ability to manage fleets of these coding agents and the reduced compliance friction thanks to those zero data retention policies. Are you thinking about what you could do with a dozen highly specialized coding agents working for you? Because Meta certainly is. Next, we're seeing some significant structural moves from Google. They've restructured their Gemini teams here, with Koray Kavakchuoglu now leading the charge. And here's the kicker: Gemini 3.5 Pro, which many of us were looking forward to, remains unreleased with no new date provided. But don't let that fool you into thinking Google is slowing down. On the contrary, they're preparing a massive $25 billion bond offering and projecting a staggering $195 to $205 billion in capital expenditure for 2026, primarily focused on AI infrastructure. Why does this matter for you? Well, it signals an absolutely colossal scale up in capacity for models and APIs. We're talking about more compute, more power, potentially faster access, and maybe even lower prices down the line. The leadership changes might affect their release cadence, sure, but those delays also indicate intense competitive pressure and the sheer complexity of pushing frontier models. Also, in the world of frontier models, Anthropic has begun very limited testing of their highly anticipated Mythos model. We heard about this via a PBS NewsHour video, so it's not a major press release, but it's an important signal. They've confirmed that this is a very limited test exclusively with select partners, and there's no public API or general availability timing announced yet. For builders, this indicates genuine progress on Anthropic's next generation frontier model. It also suggests that they're prioritizing safety and alignment extensively before any public launch, which could be a good thing in the long run. If you're building in the Anthropic ecosystem or just closely watching the frontier model race, you'll definitely want to keep an eye out for those eventual API access windows. This isn't something to build with tomorrow, but it is something to plan for. Shifting gears to policy and regulation, China has just enforced strict guardrails for AI companion services, called the Interim Measures for the Administration of AI Anthropomorphic Interaction Services. These rules actually took effect on July 15th, 2026. They mandate clear AI identity disclosure, ban fostering emotional dependency, include robust protections for minors, require crisis protocols, and even demand parental consent for users under 14. We've already seen platforms like Dubao and Quen removing custom personas in response. For builders, particularly those targeting the massive Chinese market, this means you absolutely must design your AI products with explicit disclosure and strict safety guardrails in mind. But beyond China, these measures offer a pretty comprehensive regulatory template that other nations or even other major platforms will undoubtedly study and potentially adapt. It's a window into how some governments are thinking about the very human like interfaces AI is starting to create. And finally, something very specific but hugely impactful for a segment of our audience. Fannie Mae has mandated AI governance for mortgage lenders effective today, August 6th. This isn't just a suggestion. Their lender letter LL 2026-04 requires formal AI governance frameworks for both loan origination and servicing. To support this, MISMO, the Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization, is set to launch new AI governance certifications later this month. Essentially, lenders are now required to ensure their AI systems are auditable, explainable, and operate under formal oversight. What does this mean for builders? It significantly raises the bar for AI auditability and explainability, especially in highly regulated sectors like finance. And if you're building solutions in this space, those new certification pathways could create massive differentiation opportunities for compliant builders. It's no longer just about performance, it's about provable, transparent, and accountable AI. Alright, for our deep dive today, let's double click on Meta's launch of Muse Code and its pricing and enterprise posture. I think this is the most important story of the batch because of its immediate and tangible implications for your bottom line and your product roadmap. What happened? Simply put, Meta has pushed its Muse family into the coding arena with Muse Code, an AI coding agent that's tightly integrated with Muse Spark 1.2. The headline here isn't just that it exists, but the aggressive per token pricing structure: 1.25 per million input tokens and 425 per million output tokens. What's truly strategic, though, is their flexible data policy. While there's a contributor tier for discounts if you let them use your data, the real game changer is the zero data retention option specifically for enterprise customers. This is Meta signaling they want to play in the big leagues with big companies that have extremely strict data privacy and compliance needs. Why does this matter right now? Well, that aggressive per token pricing immediately puts Meta's Muse Code in a very strong competitive position against existing coding tools. If you're using any other AI coding assistant today, you need to check your costs because Meta just moved the goalposts. For products and dev teams, lower costs for code generation can significantly reduce your operational expenses for certain workflows. More importantly, that zero data retention policy is a direct shot at overcoming one of the biggest blockers for enterprise adoption of AI tools: the fear that proprietary code or sensitive data will leak or be used to train models without consent. This could unlock entirely new use cases in regulated industries or for companies working with highly confidential intellectual property. So, who should really care about this? Tech founders and product leaders should care intensely. This represents a potential shift in your cost of goods sold for any product leveraging AI for code generation. It also means you can now build features or internal tools that were previously too expensive or too risky from a compliance perspective. Are your competitors going to leverage this to build faster or cheaper? Engineering leaders need to look at this for tooling adoption and developer productivity. Can Muse Code make your teams more efficient? Does it offer better code quality at a lower price point than what you're currently using? And how does it fit into your security posture given the zero data retention? And yes, even indie hackers should pay attention. While the scale of millions of tokens might seem daunting, cheaper access to powerful coding agents means you can iterate faster, build more complex prototypes, and spend less of your bootstrapping budget on dev tools. How would I think about this as a builder? I'd look at Muse Code not just as another AI assistant, but as a potential commodity play in the code generation space. Think of it like a new, extremely cost effective cloud compute instance. It changes the economic model. This makes certain types of projects or features, especially those that involve a lot of boilerplate code, test generation, or internal tooling, suddenly much more viable. You can start asking questions like what if code generation became essentially free and perfectly reliable? What new products or internal efficiencies could we unlock? It pushes us to rethink what's possible when a core development activity becomes significantly cheaper. But it's also important to remember that a coding agent, however powerful, is still a tool. It doesn't replace high level design, architectural decisions, or the critical thinking required for complex problem solving. It's a powerful multiplier for human effort, not a substitute for human intelligence. My no BS take on this is simple. The pricing and the focus on enterprise grade data retention are very real, not hype. This isn't just marketing fluff, it's a strategic move by Meta to capture market share by addressing real pain points, cost, and compliance. However, don't expect it to magically solve all your engineering problems. It's a productivity enhancer and a significant one, but your team's unique insights and strategic vision will remain the true drivers of innovation. If you want one practical takeaway from today's episode, here it is. Experiment, trial Muse code on a real task this week. Here's how to try it in under 60 minutes. First, dedicate maybe 10-15 minutes to getting set up. That means signing up for API access to Muse code. You'll need to check the Meta developer portal for the exact steps, but generally it's about creating an account and getting your API key. If they offer a free tier or a trial, definitely start there. Second, pick a small, well defined coding task from your current backlog. Think something like generate a Python script to parse a specific JSON log file format, or write unit tests for this existing utility function in our codebase, or create a simple API endpoint skeleton in Node.js for a new service. Keep it something that you could realistically do in about 20-30 minutes yourself. Third, use Muse code to generate that code. Feed it the prompt, specify your requirements, and see what it spits out. Finally, take another 10-15 minutes to compare the output. How's the quality of the generated code? Is it idiomatic? Does it have errors? How long did it take to get a usable result compared to doing it manually or with your existing tools? And critically, get an estimate of the cost for that task based on Meta's token pricing. Why is this specific experiment worth your time right now? Because it moves you from abstract understanding to concrete practical experience. You'll immediately get a feel for the actual quality of Meta's offering, and more importantly, whether the cost savings or compliance features are genuinely impactful for your specific product or engineering workflow. Don't just read about it, actually try it and see the impact for yourself. This is how you differentiate signal from noise. That's it for today's No BS AI briefing. If this helped, follow the show in your podcast app and share it with one builder you know. And if you've got questions or topics you want covered, connect with me on LinkedIn and send them over. See you in the next briefing.